Hello and welcome to another episode of All About Cars, where we will be answering all your questions. But before we go ahead, make sure you like, share and subscribe to the CarWale channel so you never miss an update. So we begin with our Instagram questions first. Jay Sony asks us, he wants to choose between a Toyota Fortuner or the BMW X1. The car will be mostly driven on the highways, it will be self-driven and will have to deal with a little bit of bad roads as well. So Jay, between both these cars, considering your requirements, we would recommend the BMW X1. It's the better car to drive, it's got better dynamics, it's also a very driver-centric car, so driving the X1 will be more enjoyable as compared to the Fortuner. And like you mentioned, you'll be dealing with more of highways and less of bad roads. So the BMW X1 should have a good balance since it's excellent on the roads and can also deal with a bit of bad roads. So we would definitely recommend the BMW X1. Samuel Jose asks us if he should go for the Harrier or wait for the petrol version of it. Samuel, we haven't driven the petrol version of the Harrier yet, but in case your monthly driving is over 2000 kilometers, we suggest you go for the diesel, but if it's under 2000 kilometers, you can wait for the petrol Harrier. Our next question comes from Shrikant and he wants to know which is a better buy between the Volkswagen Polo TSI or the Tata Altroz Turbo. Shrikant, the Tata Altroz Turbo is just around the corner, but we haven't driven it yet. So in case you want to buy a car right now and you cannot afford to wait, we suggest you go for the Polo TSI, or you wait till we drive the car so that we can suggest which is better of the two. We now move on to our Facebook questions, and Saurabh here asks us, he wants to buy a Fiat Palio 1.2 petrol. It's a 2002 model. The cost, he says, is around 70,000 rupees, and he wants to know whether it will be worth in terms of mileage, comfort and speed. Saurabh, the car that you're about to buy is almost 2 decades old, so you need to make sure about a lot of things. Firstly, you need to make sure that the car has undergone passing and that the registration is extended. You need to do that every 15 years. You need to make sure that the papers are in order. Also, you need to make sure that there's no rust in places that you cannot see and that the car is mechanically fit. So we suggest you take it to a reliable mechanic and have it checked thoroughly, and post that, if the car is fine, we don't think there should be any problems with mileage, comfort and speed, but it all depends on how well the car has been kept. So again, make sure you have the car checked thoroughly at a mechanic before you put your money down. Our next question comes from Ankur, and he says that he's purchasing a new Honda City and he wants to know which is the best model to go for, and price is not an issue. Ankur, you can go for the top ZX model with the automatic transmission. It costs about 14.5 lakhs ex showroom. It drives very well, it's got all the features you need, and it looks fantastic as well. So there you have it. The best model to go for is the top end ZX variant in the automatic trim. Our next question comes from Charles, and he asks us a very difficult question, asking us which is the best car to choose between the Toyota Fortuner, the Ford Endeavour or the MG Gloster. Now, answering your question, Charles, all these three cars might be in the same segment, but they offer very different things to the buyer. If you're looking at maintenance-free, no-hassle ownership experience, the Toyota Fortuner should be the one to go for. It's also the best off-roader in its segment. Now, if you're looking at the best balance of ride and handling and something that can take bad roads very well, you should look at the Ford Endeavour. Now, that car is rock solid on any kind of surface. So it's got fantastic ride quality. It also drives very well. So if you're looking at that, you can look at the Ford Endeavour. The MG Gloster is for those who look at technology and features. It's loaded to the gills. It's also got level 1 autonomous technology amongst other things. So if you're looking at a lot of features and a lot of space, the MG Gloster is the one to go for. Our next question comes from Rashi, and Rashi wants to know if the new Toyota Fortuner is a good buy. Rashi, the new Toyota Fortuner has just been launched. If you want to know more details, make sure you visit the website carwale.com. We have an extensive amount of articles covering it. So the new Fortuner gets a revised 2.8 litre engine with an automatic transmission that gets more power and torque. It also gets a lot of new features and design updates. We haven't driven the car, but going by what the Fortuner always was, it should make an ideal choice, and it's a no-brainer. Our next question comes from Ramanathan Mutaiya. He wants to know which is the best option for an automatic car, petrol or diesel, costing 15 lakhs on road. His priorities are safety, mileage, service costs, resale value after about 4 to 5 years, and total cost of ownership. His approximate usage is about 18,000 kilometers a year. Ramanathan, depending on your use that you've mentioned, we suggest you go for a petrol car, and you can choose between either the Kia Sonet or the Maruti Suzuki Brezza. Now both these cars come loaded with features. They're good on safety, they're reliable, and they have good resale value as well. The Maruti of course holds the better hand when it comes to resale, but other than that they're on par when it comes to performance, features, safety and reliability. So we suggest you test drive both these cars and then take a call. Our next question comes from Mohan Srivastava, and he says that he's looking for a car at about 10 lakhs which is reliable, automatic and a hoot to drive. He has no specific preference to the body type or fuel type. Mohan, we have just one suggestion for you with your needs. You can have a look at the Polo TSI. Now the Polo TSI comes loaded to the features, it's reliable, it's got a fantastic TSI engine which puts out 110 bhp and 175 Newton meters of torque, and it comes with a torque converter automatic. It is the best driver's car in that segment, and we suggest you look at that. We now move on to our YouTube questions, and Karthikeya Karthi and Silambarasan S both want to know if there are any updates on the facelifted Honda Amaze. Answering your question, the Honda Amaze just recently got a BS6 update, but there are no news about a facelift for the Amaze in the pipeline. As far as we think the Honda Amaze will be facelifted, but sometime in 2022. Our next question comes from Bala S, and he says that from our previous suggestions, plus or minus 10 lakh rupees, he has eyes on the i20 Asta option, naturally aspirated petrol manual, and he wants to know if this is a particularly good model in terms of engine, refinement, drivability and mileage. He also says that if not, can he choose the i20 Sportz CVT, and he says that the transmission doesn't matter and which one should he go for. He also asks us whether we recommend the turbo variants, which is slightly out of his budget. Bala, in case you can stretch your budgets, we would definitely recommend the turbo variants, especially with the twin clutch transmission. But in case the turbo is out of your budget, we would then suggest to go for the Sportz variant with the CVT transmission. There's no problem with the maintenance or reliability or efficiency, so you can definitely go for the CVT variant with your eyes closed. Our next question comes from Udit Vyas, and he wants to know which car is better in terms of safety, build quality, features, ride quality and value for money. And he wants to choose between the Nissan Magnite CVT, the Kia Sonet DCT or Hyundai Venue DCT. And he says that the majority of the usage will be in the city. Udit, looking at your parameters, we think the Nissan Magnite is the most value for money. It also has a bunch of features, it's reliable, it's got good performance and it's got good efficiency as well. So between these three, if you're looking at the best value for money, we suggest you go for the Nissan Magnite. Our next question comes from Sade Jagdesh, and he wants to know which is the best car below 9 lakh rupees. Answering your question, we don't know what parameters you're looking at, so we would recommend a good mix of ride quality, features and performance. And looking at those parameters, the Nissan Magnite comes close to what you're looking at. It's got a nice CVT transmission, it's got a nice turbo engine and it's got a lot of features, and it retails for about 8.8 lakhs for the CVT variant with the turbo engine. So you can go have a look at the Nissan Magnite and we think it should meet all your needs. Our next question comes from Sachi Patmajan, and Sachi wants to know when can a midlife facelift of the Maruti Suzuki Swift be expected. Sachi, we haven't seen any test mules of the facelifted Swift, but it's already been 3 years since the Swift has been around. So we can expect a facelift sometime at the end of this year or probably early next year. Our next question comes from Sami Ali, and Sami wants to know which is a better choice between the Maruti Suzuki Brezza or the Maruti Suzuki S-Cross. He wants to know which is more responsive and easy to drive in the city. Sami, we've driven both the cars extensively, and between both these cars they share exactly the same engine and the gearbox, which also means they have exactly the same amount of horsepower. The S-Cross is in between top end trims is just about 20 kgs heavier, but that makes no difference at all. Now between both these cars, personally we would go with the Maruti Suzuki S-Cross. It's got more space, it's easy to drive, and it's pretty responsive as well. So we'd suggest you look at the Maruti Suzuki S-Cross. Our next question comes from Viraj Seth, and he says that he has a Swift Dzire 2015 model. It's a diesel and he's looking forward to selling it. He says that he's being offered around 5.5 to 6 lakhs, and he wants to ask us whether it's the right price, considering the car is in great condition and it's done only 30,000 kilometers. Viraj, answering your question, we think that is a fair price, but it would be better if you go check out various used car dealerships and see who offers you the best price, and then depending on that, maybe you can give it to the one offering the highest price. Our next question comes from Muhammad Shamas, and he wants to know if the Volkswagen Polo GT gets hill start assist. Yes, the Polo GT does get hill start assist, so if that's the feature that's holding you back from buying it, you should go ahead and get it. Our next question comes from Madhusudan Vasudeva, and he says that he currently owns a Fiat Punto 90 HP and he's planning for a new vehicle. He wants to know whether he can expect Fiat to make a comeback with new models like the Tipo, or he wants us to suggest some options which come close to the Fiat Punto or perform better than the Punto. Madhusudan, we don't think that Fiat would be coming back. FCA is now concentrating totally on the Jeep brand. So in case you're planning to sell the Punto, we suggest you look at the Maruti Suzuki S-Cross. It makes a very good alternative to the Punto 90 HP. It's got plenty of space, it's got a very responsive motor. You can have it in manual or automatic transmission, and it's extremely reliable as well. So we think replacing your Punto with the S-Cross should be a good choice. Our next question comes from Srinath C, and he wants to know if the power fuel will give extra punch to his petrol Honda City. And he also wants to know if India will implement any rules for smaller speed breakers because of large speed breakers, in fact, India doesn't get good cars. Srinath, answering your first question, power is basically fuel with additives. So it might not give a huge power bump, but from what we hear or from what we know, it helps keep your injectors clean, thereby keeping your performance as good as stock. Now, answering your other question, will India implement rules for smaller speed breakers? Well, the rules for speed breakers is already there, and all speed breakers which have been made by the government have to be built with a certain specification. But it's the illegal speed breakers that are built around cities and towns that cause problems. So answering your question, the rules are already there and speed breakers have to be of a certain size, but unless we stop illegal speed breakers being built, there's no solution to that. Our next question comes from Harpreet Singh, and he wants to know which is a better choice between the Tata Nexon XZ Plus option or the top-end XUV300 petrol, or should we suggest something else? Harpreet, between both these cars, the Tata Nexon is the more spacious and offers a better ride quality. But if you want a more involving drive experience, the XUV300 is the better bet. So you can choose between these two. If you want a better ride quality and more space, you have the Tata Nexon. But if you want something that is more involving to drive, has slightly peppier performance, the Mahindra XUV300 is the better choice. Apart from these two, you can also have a look at the Kia Sonet, which again comes with the 1-liter turbo engine. Again, it's a little lacking when it comes to rear space, but it's right up there when it comes to performance. Our next question comes from Vamsi Krishna, and Vamsi wants to know when Tesla will open a plant in India and what will their cars cost. Vamsi, there is no news about when Tesla will open a plant in India, although there are chances that they will, but it's still quite some time in the future. And as far as prices for the cars, we won't know that unless we know how they plan to bring their cars in, whether it would be CKD, whether they would be manufacturing here, or would it be CBU. So I think we can wait a little till we find out more. Our next question comes from Leonard, and he wants to know which is a better choice between the Maruti Suzuki Swift, the Hyundai i20 Sportz, the Tata Altroz XZ, the Nissan Magnite, and he wants to know which would be a wise option in terms of ride, space, safety, comfort and stability. Leonard, between these cars, we think the Hyundai i20 makes for a good choice. It offers plenty of space, it's very good to drive, and it's right there on reliability as well. We would also suggest you wait a little because Tata is just coming up with the Tata Altroz Turbo, and that car again should be right up there when it comes to space and performance. So it should be a close call between these two cars. So we suggest you wait a little and have a look at the Tata Altroz Turbo as well once it comes out. That's all for this week's All About Cars, and make sure you do send in your questions across any social media platform so we can help you make the better choice. And again, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to the CarWale channel so that you never miss an update.